Troops battle 200 Army mutineers in a struggle over black power. And in Colombia, troops surround the home of former dictator Rojas as his supporters demand his return to power. Howard?
Reports tonight from Gregory Jackson on Earth Day in New York City, Bill Downs on the sights and sounds of the protest here in Washington, Bill Butel on how London cleaned up its air, Lou Chaffee on the brutal treatment of Vietnamese in Cambodia, Irv Chapman on Lenin Day in Moscow, and tonight's comment, a little girl with a clear view of a nation buried in litter. Details on these and other stories in a moment.
Going out with Ronald again?
How'd you guess?
Take a bath for an hour, put on girly powder, and go out with Ronald.
The girly powder is baby powder.
That's worse.
It smells nice. Try some.
You don't have to smell nice to play baseball.
Oh.
I'm leaving.
Going somewhere?
To tell Ronald his baby's almost ready.
Johnson's baby powder keeps anybody's baby smooth and fresh.
You know, it wasn't until I had a baby that I found the best shampoo for my own hair. Johnson's baby shampoo. Know what I discovered? The baby-like softness born in my hair, the silkiness, the shine. Johnson's baby shampoo makes gentle, no more tears lather, leaves your hair so manageable, bright and softly alive. Baby your hair with Johnson's baby shampoo. Don't wait to have a baby to try it.
I believe it was W.C. Fields who once outraged a great many people when he remarked, "Any man who hates dogs and children can't be all bad." Well, perhaps he had a point, because today we finally discovered something good about pollution. In a time of stress and strife, it has at least united the country in opposition to it. This was Earth Day, and Republicans and Democrats, radicals and rightists, young and old, rich and poor, finally found a war all can support, a war on pollution. To begin a report on how Americans observed this Earth Day, here is ABC's Gregory Jackson in New York.
This is what Fifth Avenue looked like this morning, a street usually given over almost completely to the automobile. But this afternoon, they kicked the cars out and gave Fifth Avenue back to the people, at least for a few hours. It was all part of Earth Day in New York City, but it may just as well have been called People Day. At the lower end of Manhattan, another major traffic artery, 14th Street, was closed for 12 hours. The street swept clean by hundreds of volunteers. And just off 14th in Union Square, more than 100 booths were set up to celebrate clean air in the fight against pollution. And throughout the city, there were college teach-ins on ecology and programs designed to focus attention not only on what everyone knows, that is, New York is a dirty city, but that something can be done about it. In Philadelphia, there was a similar massive outpouring of people, and Senator Edmund Muskie addressed a crowd of 25,000 at the University of Pennsylvania.
It must be clear that the time has come to lay down our weapons of self-destruction and pick up the tools of social and environmental reconstruction. No major American river is clean anymore, and some are fire hazards. No American lake is free of pollution, and some are dying. No American city can boast of clean air. No American community is free of debris and solid waste. And we are turning to the open spaces and the ocean depths to cast off the waste products of our effluent society. So I suggest that we make one commitment here today above all others, that we will make every day Earth Day until we get this job done.
This is Bill Worden in Los Angeles. The smog here was relatively light today, and so were the crowds at Earth Day happenings. At the USC campus, a few students held a funeral for an auto engine. Fewer still stopped to watch. The message was an old one. The campus parking lots were full in spite of pleas to ride a bicycle today. North of Los Angeles, the Survival Walk approached. For 5 weeks, they've been walking toward the city. Each time they stopped, they set up an ecological fair. Not many people came by today to look at the fair, and that's what this group has come to expect. At UCLA at noon, the guerrilla theater troupe Smog performed. Their message, the air will soon be too polluted to breathe. Again, their audience was small. Earth Day in Los Angeles was business as usual day. More cars putting out more pollution than anywhere else on the planet. In New Haven, they honored Earth Day on the Yale campus. Jim Giggins reports.
The demonstrations at Yale University today were not for ecological change, but for student solidarity with Bobby Seale. The Black Panther Party chairman faced his second day of pretrial hearings on a murder charge in New Haven. A student strike had cut normal class attendance by 2/3. Massachusetts Senator Edward Kennedy, invited to address the Yale Political Union on ecology, found himself confronted by students more interested today in human rights than the nation's environment. Senator Kennedy augmented his prepared text and addressed himself first to social issues and then to environmental problems.
Because I do not believe that violence brings change. I believe violence brings self-indulgence, and I believe violence leads the way for more repression. And I believe with those black leaders and other leaders, religious leaders as well, that it has not been effective and will not be effective in achieving a desired end. And I can just say, unfortunately, I'm an authority on violence, and all it brings is pain and suffering. And there's no place for that in our society today. Exercise your imagination to save or lift your fellow man from the dirt of the earth, but act in a way meaningful to someone other than yourself. That, in all its simplicity, should be the message of Earth Day, and the control of the physical pollution may well be child's play thereafter.
This is Jim Giggins, ABC News, New Haven, Connecticut.
The plea in this outcry heard across the land today was for somebody to do something before it's too late. A good many people felt that the somebody should be the federal government, but ironically both houses of Congress had taken the day off and many of their members were flying around the country making speeches. Generally, Washington was left to the people who live here, and they joined in marking Earth Day. ABC's Bill Downs reports.
It was a magnificent spring day for cutting classes and for a protest march from the Department of Interior to the Washington Monument. The shouts were "Save the Earth," and even the D.C. police seemed to agree as the 2,000 to 3,000 marchers paraded behind a green and white stars and stripes. There are 50 American flags ringing the base of the monument. The green and white one was present today, possibly representing the 51st state of youth. Earlier, at the Plush Suburban Elementary School in Chevy Chase, Maryland, there was another kind of Earth Day ceremony with a touch of Broadway and a parody written by an 11-year-old student.
Oil drops are falling on their heads, and that surely means that soon they will all be dead, unless we help them now. Those oil drops are falling on their heads, they keep falling. So I just did me some talking to my friends, and some of them said, well, it all depends what will happen next. Those oil drops are falling on their heads, they keep falling. But there's one thing I know, oil drops are falling on their heads, and that surely means their eyes will soon be turning red, unless we help them now. Those oil drops.
So this is what this day really is all about, for they shall inherit the earth.
We don't worry at all.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
Southern Florida is booming. It needs another jet port. It needs more and more water for its rapidly expanding population. But ironically, the proposed site for the new jetport endangered the vital water supply. Which was more important? Here in the Everglades, at Big Cypress Swamp, the jetport was started. Millions of dollars invested. Then the conservationists took action to protect the Everglades, to protect the watershed, and thus, hopefully, to save man from himself. Follow the controversy as it raged among politicians, conservationists, property owners, land developers. Watch the great water battle on Mission Possible, They Care for the Land, an ABC News special.
Friday night at 10, 9 o'clock Central Time here on ABC.
While ours may be the most industrialized nation in the world, we have no monopoly on pollution. Not only is there pollution overseas, but sometimes, in Europe for instance, it has international implications. ABC's John Rolfson has a report from Paris.
This device here on the top of the Eiffel Tower measures air pollution. The air here in Paris does not taste as bad or feel as grimy as the air in New York, for example. Still, someone calculated that Parisians lose 90 days of sunshine a year because of pollution. Factories contribute, as in all industrialized countries. So do automobiles. There are anti-pollution laws on the books here in France, but they are weak and poorly enforced. The sewers of Paris pour unpurified wastes into the Seine River. Some fishing streams are stocked only one day before the season opens. The fish just can't survive long in that water. The problem is even more complex here in Europe than it is in the United States. Besides resistance to change and lack of concern, one country cannot solve it alone. Smoke from factories in England causes brown snow and acid rain in Norway. Waste dumped into the Rhine River in Germany. Foul harbors in Holland. French industrialists won't increase their costs with anti-pollution devices unless their competitors in Italy do the same. With the public finally taking notice, the government here in France has launched a major study. But it says it's much too early to talk about major decisions. And it insists that pollution here really is not as bad as in America. John Rolfson, ABC News, in Paris.
At least one capital city abroad appears to have won the battle against dirt and grime. ABC's Bill Butel reports from London.
It wasn't long ago that the world was always singing about a foggy day in London town. You don't hear that song much now, and it's just as well because it doesn't fit anymore. When it isn't raining, the air in London today is about as clear as it is in any big city in the world. The face and the breath of London have changed because of the Clean Air Act of 1956. The chimney pots are still there, just as they were in the days of Charles Dickens, but the black smoke that fouled the air for decades is gone. More than 60% of the buildings in London are covered by the smoke control laws, which say that you can't burn fuel that produces black smoke. In the past 10 years, the amount of smoke in London's air has been cut by 80%. Sulfur dioxide in the air has been cut by about 30%. The air of other cities gets worse every year, but London's air gets better, and the trend is likely to continue as more and more of the city comes under the smoke control laws. In the days of the black fog, before the fight against air pollution, there was no point in cleaning London's wonderful old buildings. But now it makes sense. They're scrubbing the grime off the old buildings, Buckingham Palace included. There are other benefits, too. There seems to be less respiratory disease here than there used to be. There's even some sign that the people of London don't have to spend as much money on their laundry as they used to. The most interesting thing is that all this pleasure costs the average London taxpayer no more than about 36 cents a year. This is Bill Butel, ABC News, London.
If they could only do something about the weather. We'll be back with more news in a moment.
Issues and Answers makes history, where the leaders of today make the headlines of tomorrow, where the world's most famous people issue the answers that decide elections, that change foreign policy, that create a new world, that influence presidents. cabinet officers, heads of state. Match today's tempo. Keep up with the newsmakers. They're all on ABC's weekly interview program, Issues and Answers.
Our guest this week, Senator Edmund Muskie of Maine, Sunday on Issues and Answers.
When Kodak invented these little cameras with drop-in loading, they were thinking of everybody. Even travelers with a lot on their hands. Kodak cameras and film. Oh, how they click. See your Kodak dealer. Kodak Instamatic cameras start at less than $10.
If the difference between a carpet of Codell polyester and ordinary polyester mystifies you, let's look into it. This is ordinary polyester yarn. Here's the same weight of special Codell polyester for carpets. See, Codell is fatter, blooms into a more beautiful carpet. So different, it's patented.
Codell means more carpet to the yard. Look for this label.
Like many institutions across the nation, the University of Michigan at East Lansing has been building up to Earth Day for weeks. They've held seminars and demonstrations and even a concert on ecology. The showstopper at that concert was a young guitarist from Toronto named Gordon Lightfoot. Here is his song.
While walking along by the shoreline one day, all down by Lake Erie where the dead fishes lay, I spied a young maiden with a tear in her eye, breathing the smoke from a factory close by, waiting for doomsday to come. She offered a hand and I offered mine. We ran down the beach for a dip in the slime when a body came floating right up to my feet. Ah, one that the mob had done in Sunday week, waiting for doomsday to come. She fled through the trash and the bottles and cans. She beckoned unto me, so with her I ran. I grabbed her and I held her at the end of the chase, where a black iron pipe gushed industrial waste. By a rusty old girder we kissed. You talk of the poor and you say they're hard done, that rats are unhealthy, but I think they're fun. They're brown and they're cuddly and they make real good pets. And when baby gets bitten, she never forgets. Oh, what a wonderful lesson to learn. And so as I walk through the garbage today, all down by Lake Erie where the dead fishes lay, I'm young and I'm healthy and all will be well. I'll make the grade if I can just stand the smell, waiting for doomsday to come.
Last week, commercial fishing was banned on Lake Erie because of the amount of mercury found in fish taken from the lake. Today, the governor of Ohio lifted that ban on fishing. New tests show the fish are still all right to eat, but at the same time, a lawsuit was filed against a chemical company for polluting the lake. ABC News will present an Earth Day special and SOS for Survival tonight at 11:30, 10:30 Central Time. We'll be back with more news in a moment.
J.W., I want you to transport the Butch Behringer gang over to Piney Flats.
Take the Behringer gang? But Judge Torben, my proud car, it ain't big enough.
J.W., we'll use my car. But Judge, 71 Dodge Royal Sportsman wagon. It'll hold them all, J.W. Just look at all them seats.
What's that, air conditioning?
Yep, optional. Power brakes, power steering, too. Handles real easy.
But Judge Torben, yes, sir. But old Butch got a rough bunch of boys.
It can take it, J.W.
But Judge,
this thing rides as smooth as a baby's cheek. Even got a concealed step. Of course, if you ain't up to it.
Give me that ball!
What's Behringer? Y'all get strapped in. I ain't moving here. Dang nabbit!
Dodge announces the all-new Sportsman wagon. If you want comfort that's built for a crowd, you could be Dodge material.
This thing can take a lot more than I can, I tell you that.
In other news today, despite a slowdown in the recent advance of the price of food, the cost of living rose again in March, this time by 0.5%. The biggest increases were in the cost of doctor and hospital bills and home mortgages. In Kansas, Governor Robert Docking today placed the college town of Lawrence under a dusk-to-dawn curfew after another night of violence. More than 300 National Guardsmen and state police are on duty in Lawrence. The entire nation of Colombia is under martial law and a state of siege following more street fighting between government forces and followers of former dictator Gustavo Rojas. Rojas himself apparently is under some form of house arrest. A state of emergency is in effect in Trinidad and Tobago, where rebellious army troops, allied with militant Black Power forces, have been fighting units loyal to the government. 6 American warships, including the aircraft carrier Guadalcanal, are steaming toward Trinidad, apparently to evacuate American citizens caught in the turmoil, and U.S. small arms are being sent to help the government. Military aid is the subject of a new request to President Nixon, made in a personal letter from the new premier of Cambodia. Washington has had no immediate comment. In Cambodia, government troops have surrounded the town of Sang, which is held by the Viet Cong. There was a particularly horrible incident in that same area yesterday. ABC's Lou Chiaffi has a report.
These people behind me are local Vietnamese. The Cambodian government says they come from Phnom Penh, and the government also says that they have volunteered to go across no man's land into Viet Cong and North Vietnamese lines. They're going to try to walk into an enemy-held village held by the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese, handing out pamphlets calling for the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong to leave, and they're hoping that they can get in peacefully. Closer and closer. Still no sign of the Viet Cong or North Vietnamese. Just this morning, this was a hotly contested area. Now it looks utterly deserted except for that group of 60 or so Vietnamese men and women. Most of them now covering their heads against this very, very hot sun, moving along the side of the road, both sides of the road, into the village. I'm just walking by this house that was hit by a mortar this morning, and the heat from that on one side, it's almost unbearable. Get out of here. It's a shot. Everybody is lying flat on the ground. Everybody's lying flat on the ground. Off in the distance, we can still hear the big guns and the machine guns still firing. Apparently, as a result of that firefight we just went through, when the Vietnamese civilians were brought to the edge of the town of Song and were fired on by the Viet Cong, the general in charge of the operation says he's very pleased with the results. He said because of the civilians getting fired at, he now knows where the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong are and where their heavy weapons are. And at this particular juncture, the Cambodian general may be the only man who's happy with what happened here today on the outskirts of the village of Song in Cambodia. This is Lou Chiaffi, ABC News at Song.
Not all was gloom in the world today. The Russians had a big celebration, the 100th anniversary of the birth of Lenin. ABC's Irv Chapman has a report from Moscow.
Premier Kosygin was well enough recovered from his recent illness to spend all day presiding over this meeting. Then he concluded it with a short speech eulogizing Lenin as the fount of inspiration in the continued struggle against imperialism. It was party chief Brezhnev who made the principal speech yesterday on ideology, economics, and foreign affairs. Earlier today, the top Soviet leaders joined in laying a wreath at Lenin's mausoleum. As the 2 days of ceremonies ended, an honor guard marched in. The Soviet leaders, and all of them were on hand, including those recently sick, were joined by their invited guests from 80 of the world's communist parties in singing the anthem. The speeches had ranged from Cuban and Vietnamese communists thanking the Soviet Union for its aid and arms, while Egypt's Ali Sabri decried the weapons of terror, violence, and aggression which are streaming from America to fascist Israel. Well, tonight here in Moscow, floodlights illuminate the Kremlin, strings of bulbs light up the bridges, and we expect a fireworks display. All this in honor of a man whose contemporaries lauded him for his modesty. This is Irv Chapman, ABC News, Moscow.
More in a moment.
Will you have this man for your wedded husband? Honor and keep him in sickness and health, so long as you both shall live.
Would you repeat the question?
Ever have one of those days when you couldn't seem to get with it? You might have been suffering from the blahs. Not really suffering, because the blahs don't make you feel that bad.
I'm only going as far as Fort Lauderdale.
Oh. They just make you feel a little hooky and out of it. Kind of blah. Fortunately, there's something you can do about the blahs. Alka-Seltzer soothes the minor stomach upsets and relieves the half headaches before they become whole headaches. With Alka-Seltzer, you can beat the blahs before they beat you.
Earlier in this report, you heard an Earth Day song, Oil Drops Are Falling on Their Heads, sung by children at a school outside Washington. The composer of the lyrics is 11-year-old Andrea Harris. In place of our comment, we thought you might like to hear Andrea's in a talk with Bill Downs.
How do you feel about what's happening to the Earth?
Well, you know, I think that it's getting really bad because it's getting polluted, and pretty soon we're not going to have like any water, fresh water to drink, or you know, clean air or anything.
What do you think should be done about it?
Well, I don't know, but I sort of think that that the space program ought to be sort of slowed down, and that we ought to concentrate more on the you know, the pollution and everything.
Who do you blame for all of this? Your mother and your father and us older people?
No, I can't blame anybody. I mean, there's nobody to blame because it's just sort of like built up over the years and everything.
You think that you and people your age are going to be able to stop it?
I don't think we can stop it real quick, but I don't know. We could start, you know.
Now, you think Earth Day, they should have it every year or every day or what?
Well, Earth Day shouldn't be just like a day every year. I think you should do everything like, just have every day be like Earth Day.
There's enough environment left for my generation to live on, but there may not be enough left for Andrea's. That is why we let her comment. Good night.
This has been the ABC Evening News with Frank Reynolds and Howard K. Smith, Monday through Friday in color. This has been a presentation of ABC News. The sea elephant, which survived the threat of extinction once, is battling again for survival. The undersea world of Jacques Cousteau explores the strange world of this mysterious creature in The Return of the Sea Elephants, tomorrow night at 7:30, 6:30 Central Time on ABC.
Chili spaghetti.
Chili spaghetti.
Chili spaghetti. Vietti chili spaghetti. Vietti chili spaghetti. Vietti chili spaghetti.
Howdy, friends. This is Ernest Tubbs speaking for Consumers National Life Insurance Company of Evansville, Indiana. You know, I want to tell you about this hospital care policy that's now available for people 50 to